Hello, good morning. As she stated, my name is George Rodriguez, and any questions you may have, as she stated again, you're free to ask, but know that if you ask, you're gonna get an answer to it. So, or if we don't know it, we're gonna also let you know we don't know. But I just kind of want to tell you a little bit about myself. I was born in Houston, Texas, and I kind of grew up in a dysfunctional family. Mother and father was separated when I was about 3 years old. My father went to prison when I was 7 years old. And for years, he had told me he didn't commit the crime, where everybody else, at least from my mother's side, said that he did. He was convicted for aggravated kidnapping and aggravated sexual assault of an 11-year-old girl. Well, as the years go on, I've seen him a few times while he was in prison. He would continue to tell me that he was innocent. And at 15 years old, while he was still locked up, I myself committed a murder charge. A murder, and I got locked up for that.
At what age? Stress that again.
I was 15 years old.
Okay.
Like I said, I grew up in a dysfunctional family, and most of my family were, they were doing something wrong. Whatever they were selling drugs, stealing cars, robbing, whatever. But I chose the road to steal cars, and that car that I stole eventually, it led me to a murder charge because the guy I tried to sell the stuff to knew the dude I stole it from. So he went back and told him, so they tried to set me up. And it just so happens I had my mother there with me, and she seen the guy coming up behind me. So while she's in the car, she didn't know what was going down. This was just a place I asked her to take me. So when she seen him coming up behind me, she just screamed, Mino, watch out behind you. My first reaction, was, there's a threat behind me, the way she screamed. So I turned, and the gun I had on me, I pulled it out. So the guy tried to reach for it, and when he did, he grabbed my wrist, and when I pulled back, and shot him in the head. So I ended up getting a life sentence for that charge there. Well, when I went to prison, it was rough at first. My first unit was Clemens Unit right here in Brazoria County, and while I was there for the first few years, I was able to get a contact visit with my father. I had to go see him on Cofield Unit. So when they shipped me over there, he was telling me, he was constantly stressing, like, I didn't do this. Please understand, this, that's not me. But as I grew up, I started to disbelieve everybody. Everybody lies about something. So I really wanted to believe he didn't, I wanted to believe he didn't do it. But there was a part of me was like, man, he did it. And right after I visited him, it was a weekend visit that we had. We were allowed to go there. And I got there on a Friday night. I stayed there till Sunday morning. They sent me back to my other unit. And when I went back, this was like 99, and a couple years later, I ended up catching they tried to charge me for a staff assault. I sent an officer to the hospital. So they segregated me. And while I was in seg, I got a letter from him, and he told me that they were gonna do a DNA test to show that he was innocent. And I was, I still had hope and stuff, but there was still the other side that I struggled with. Like, nah, man, this dude trying to play the system. Well, long story short, he got exonerated. They found out that the pubic hair and the semen found in the young lady's panties didn't even match his. And at the time, the forensic officer said that the blood type matched him. But after the DNA test was done, they said that the blood type didn't even match him. So they went back and looked at some records from this forensics, the analysis, the guy who did it, and they realized that he lied in a lot of his cases. He was doing whatever he fit the crime to lock somebody up. So, my dad's out, but it was kind of rough on him. He did 18 years in that, and me being locked up, I just, my mind was, I never felt I was going to get out. They gave me a life sentence on the murder, 20 years on the attempted murder.
George, do you mind when you talked about being in segregation, sort of highlighting that piece of it and what you experienced? Because last week we talked about how Texas changed the laws to where it's restricted housing and not segregation.
The name itself is only changed for the face of public.
Oh, okay.
It's just like the Texas Department of Texas Department of Rehabilitation Corrections. Remember, that's what it was called back then until the lawsuit came into effect. And then they changed the name.
Okay,
It's
so
similar,
just kind of highlight that for them, because
will.
they had questions about that last week.
I will, ma'am. But when I went, I'm gonna back up just a little bit, because when I went to, when I first got locked up, I had a girlfriend who was pregnant. And, my son ended up dying while I was in the county jail. So a lot of that took a toll on me to where I didn't even care no more, you know. And it was kind of hard, but there was something in me that still kept hope. And she talks about seg because it's segregation that I feel like God broke me. And this ain't my first time going to segregation because I was in county jail. I went for 2 years in the county jail. Segregation is basically they put you in a cell by yourself, and you might be able to come out for an hour just to go to rec and get a shower and stuff. And when you go to rec, they would put handcuffs on you. They'll take you to your own little. They don't even have nothing there. It's usually just a room for you to walk around in. So a lot of times, a lot of the men just stay in their cells because it's no point in unless you're gonna go out to the rec yard, which like on Darrington we have it looks like kennels, big old cages. So in the rec yard, you know, they'll do a transfer with drugs or whatever they're gonna do there. So that's why they'll go to rec. Some people stay in because we're not trying to get involved in that. But segregation, it's I've seen a lot of men lose their minds there within 6 months. They start going crazy. Some of them want to take medication and ask the psych doctor, the psychiatrist, if they couldn't help. They're trying to ease whatever they're going through, and they're not really crazy, but all you have to do is tell the psych doctor, man, that I'm seeing things and hearing things, and they're gonna quickly prescribe something to you. They don't actually do, they don't really check on you to see if you're really crazy. They just to get you out the way, they're gonna give you the medication. And that individual eventually kind of, you know, he really goes crazy. Seg, it's like I said, staying in that cell. The first time I did 2 years in the county. The second time when I was in TDC and I caught that staff assault on Clemens unit, they sent me to Darrington unit, and that's where they segged me over there. And I did 4 years and I think a couple of months segregated in a cell by myself. And I had learned to be able to I could stare at a wall for hours without, you know, basically thinking about nothing else. And even to this day, I find myself, I gotta snap out of it because I could just stare at something for a minute. And it was just, I feel like it was a way that I was starting to lose touch with reality myself. And the officers back there, they really don't care about you. There's a lot of them who come there and they have good intentions. They want to work right. They want to help you because they feel like this is something good for them. But the influence of the other officers around them, you know, they start to act just as bad. And I feel like I tell my brothers or the other guys that are locked up with, we need to quit viewing these correctional officers as a whole. We have to try to look at them individually. And even some of the officers that I was allowed to talk to on the Walls unit that I even prayed with over time, you know, because they started having trouble and I prayed with them, they would come to me and ask me questions. And some of them, I could see that they want to do right, but when they're with the wrong people, they ended up, you know, they'll end up beating up on the inmate or doing something crazy. And it's like, man, you got to be yourself. You know what I'm saying? Stand your own ground and have, you know, be true to your own convictions. But one thing about SEG, like I said, it's hard. It's gonna be some hard time, and it's not. I think to me it was more of just, I guess, the loneliness. The fear of dying in prison was something that haunted me for years. And when I did get out of segregation in 2001, yeah, 2001, I got out of segregation. I went to it was an All-Red unit, and All-Red it was a bad unit, but at this time I had already, you know, not to offend none of you, but I had found Jesus, you know, and I was, it was at that moment when this volunteer came through SEG, because they let people come from the outside to come back there. So he came through SEG and he was like, hey man, you wanna pray and stuff? And I'm like, man, I already believe in Jesus, because before I got locked up, I went to church one time. I mean, you know, it's the mindset of it. But I think God, and I feel like God in his sovereignty kind of allowed me to go to SEG because I had to get my heart right. But when this guy prayed with me, it broke me.
You're okay.
You got it, bro. It's good, bro. You got it.
I don't have any Kleenex.
Nah,
There's
you
none
good.
to the right of
It's
him.
good. And I had something made me think like, man, I ain't cried in years. But after that moment, it's like every time, and I've argued with God like, why you got me like this? Why do I constantly? You got me crying about sensitive things now, and I'll be like, I don't want to do that. But as I would constantly pray and ask him, I hated this crying because that wasn't me. It was like, you know what? I allowed you to do that to keep you humble, to keep you sensitive towards other people, to be passionate. And so I don't even like watching TV sometimes because, there's certain things on TV that, got family around and stuff. They'd be like, oh man, you crying, this and that. I'm like, man, shut up, man.
No, I do. I know when they do the animal abuse stuff, like through the Humane Society, I have to turn this station or
Yeah.
I get really emotional. So
But-
you're not alone.
Yeah, it's just movies, even the news, like, God, how we do each other, it's so different out here. It's a lot different out here. One of the things about the inside, our relationships, we're doing this hard times together. We miss family, friends, people die on us. And so all we have is to lean on each other, and they're a bond, we kind of have a bond with each other because of that. Whereas in the world, it seems like a lot of family and people are made, everybody does their own thing, nobody comes together. Hard times, we don't unite, we're not standing for one another. And anyways, I went to Already, and from segregation, they usually put you on what they call a G5 status, that's close custody.
We discussed that last week in class, trustee through G5.
But they didn't send me to close custody. They sent me to medium custody. Somehow I skipped that, and it was a blessing though, because when I got over there to Already, they put me in medium custody. I used to be, I don't know if y'all know anything about or heard anything about gangs and stuff, but I used to blast places, Houston, Austin, 4th Ward, and Dallas. They're kind of together and stuff. So when I got over there, the thing that I did when I got saved was I went to someone who spoke for Houston. And I'm like, look, man, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing now, man. I'm following Jesus. So whatever you want to do, just let me know. We'll go out to the rec yard and, y'all can handle me out there. What's crazy is when I look back on it, it's like, man, I'm actually allowing these men to try to do something to me. Like, come on outside, take care of business. But I feel like it was the right thing to do because of the codes and stuff we had that we lived by. So I went outside, a lot of the men out there, we talked, we discussed it and stuff. And the only thing they told me, like, man, look, just keep doing what you're doing. Don't get in no mess and stay out the way. We got you. So that's what I did. I started going to church, started getting involved in things. And eventually I got my GED, which I didn't have at the time. Fast forward a few years, I got an application to go to a Darrington unit that was providing a college course over there. Or actually, it was a degree. I went to Darrington, and the degree was given. The courses and stuff were given by professors from Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. Did y'all discuss that?
Yes, it's when we were in the chapel and you heard from the field ministers, particularly James, and we talked about that program, how hard it is to get in, and they earn a bachelor's degree, and that is how I actually met George.
Yeah, James was my classmate. But I miss him, and there's times I told him that I wish I was back in there with him.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. So listen to what he's saying. So even as he says that, it's just, you gotta think, he did a life sentence. So that's 30. How many of y'all are 30 years older? None of y'all. Oh, you're probably like 31.
Me.
31. So I mean, just imagine the magnitude of what he's actually saying, because you got to realize the conditions that we are already living in, and then you're doing this on a day-to-day basis to where it's a routine. Because even as he's saying that, I had mentioned to some other people the other day, as I mentioned, you miss the caliber of the relationships that you have while you're incarcerated. Today, in today's age, I don't mean to jack the light though, but in today's age, man, you see everybody tapped onto these phones, or they have a social connection with the individual. It trips me out, because I'll sit here and eat with somebody, everybody at the table is sitting here on the phone. And so I was like, man, that's crazy, because now having that ability to talk on a social level, right, is now, I feel like, a lost art. And so it's crazy, because it's something so minute. Like back in the day, in our age, we don't have technology, right? I mean, obviously like, we don't have phones. So, like, just imagine how hard it was to be in there, but to talk about the relationships is because, so we live in a glass house. So when you see these other individuals who walk the walk just like this, you'll see other people who who claim to be, whatever it is. I don't know if, like, you can never outperform your own self-image. So for instance, if you say that you are a thug or a gangster, you will never surpass that because you've already capped the limitation on yourself. But in reality, for the individuals, while we're incarcerated, we are in a glass house to where we see each other day to day, and we see how you choose to handle situations. Although you could be justified to respond in a certain manner, the reality of it is like, okay, like you said, the magnitude of relationships that, because they'll get to speak, well, he'll get to speaking about that because he was a field minister, I was a life coach. So it's easier to, when you first get into this penitentiary, that you can conform to the masses. So I'm not worried, I'm worried about the next person say, hey, bro, wait, now, you know what, you ain't gonna see me as a weak individual. But already that mindset altogether should already tell you that you have a level of insecurity in yourself. You should already have a level of confidence in who you are, but I did not know that. So I would overcompensate with a different level of aggression, because that was the only thing that I knew how to adhere to was anger. So anything I came across, even though I tell you, hey man, I don't got no feelings, but me even saying that statement alone would already tell you that it already touched the emotional chord with me. So when he talked about the brothers, especially the ones that we went through some struggle, we went through a lot of struggles. I don't know if you guys told him about the fires and stuff like that.
I did tell him about the fire that burned the building we couldn't tour because of the fire damage from 2 years ago.
That was fun.
That was an eye-opening situation, but we were basically the ones that were going around and making sure that everybody was situated.
Mm-hmm.
So even when you guys come to these tours, because we talked to numerous tours, right, is that you guys already have a predisposition when you're already dealing with inmates because of what you've seen from your exposure, of what you watch on TV,
Mm-hmm.
social media, or whatever. But I always know this, that we're all humans, so we make mistakes. I guarantee you that nobody in this room is perfect, right? But in reality, those should not define who you are. You take this as an opportunity. So even as we talk about the relationships that have been formed, he talks about how he misses them. Like I miss some of the brothers in there because I knew that they were stomped down or they were serious about their walk in there. Because as we said, like, it's a glass house. So you see individuals, when you come across the situation, well, look at, hey man, how do you choose to respond? That dude just disrespects you on that type of level. Well, there's levels to everything. So what do? Right? But for us, and what you choose to do, because it comes from a different level of confidence, because we have to find out exactly who we are, which I'm pretty much jacking a lot of stuff.
You
No,
gotta think
and-
about anger management, because remember, anger management, one of the things I think about is when they, you talk about defending something. What are you defending when somebody disrespects you? You're trying to defend an image within yourself that you believe in or other people see in you. And in reality, bro, who cares what people see in you? Because they're not gonna even know you no more. You know what I'm saying? I seen dudes in prison get stabbed up behind nothing, man. The $10 watch, getting hit 10, 15 times in the chest.
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
Well, and I appreciate what both of them are saying, because I can't remember which tour it was. It was a couple of years ago, and I think it was the day it was pouring down rain, and you come rushing in just to speak to the students. And I had students come up to me and say, you were standing shoulder to shoulder with a murderer. And how, like, some were shocked by that, like, how could you stand that close to a murderer? And others were like, that was sort of interesting. And I remember George was telling his story to my students, and he started crying just like he did today. And then all of those students who said that to me walked out, and they were like, that was life-changing. That moment just changed my life, because I saw him as a human being and not as an inmate, or not as a prisoner, or not as a murderer. And so we all have these preconceived notions from the movies and social media of what prison is like. And you say the word murderer and you think of like somebody who goes on this murdering spree and shoots up a theater or a school and kills all these people. And each one of these individuals has a very distinct, different story. And the first time I met Lamb, I'll never forget, he walked by and he's like, what are you doing? He just walked by and he's like, what are you doing here? Like, who are you and what are you doing here? So I started to explain myself. And he walked by me. I was standing on the chapel stairs. He's like, who are you and what are you doing here? And I was with some students who had already walked in. This was years ago. and he had a smile on his face. And every time I would see him in that unit, he had a smile on his face. That it was recognizable and noticeable. And students were like, how can that guy be so happy and smiling being locked up? But that was his disposition every single time I walked in there. And they're like, he's just so happy, and how could that possibly be?
Look how young he looks.
And
For real.
so that's
For real.
why I kind of appreciate what they're telling you right now, kind of about that, you know, that persona, that personality, that character you build within yourself while you're serving time. And I've always said I'm extremely proud of George, because when I first met him and we had these conversations about the degree he earned and how hard it was to do that, and they only select 40, I would always walk out of that unit shaking his hand like, I'm so proud of you, and someday you're coming to my classroom, and someday you're coming to my classroom, and someday, and I would say that every single time, and now that to both of them, and now that day is here. So do you want to share a little bit about your story?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, do you want me to show the picture first?
You can if you want. Oh, my bad, bro.
You want me to show it first, and then I'll shut the projector down? Okay, so before he begins his story, he just wants to show you an image. It's gonna take is that making noise? Okay, this is just one I pulled off the news, so it's just a quick picture. Sorry, our projector takes a while to warm up.
Cool.
This
Trust
classroom.
Me, man, look, we're still getting used to technology nowadays, so
I know, they were shocked when we were talking about how inmates have tablets, and they were like, wait, what?
Yeah, we did many years where you did not have that type of
Okay, I'm gonna turn the lights off for just a second, then I'll shut the projector back down.
We didn't have phones back then, miss.
Yeah.
No, I know, well, I
Yeah.
know. See, I told you, this acts up all the time. Okay, shoot. Okay, so do you wanna point to that image and explain a little bit, and then I'll shut the projector down?
All right, so even here, like, you know, one of the things I'm gonna tell you guys is one of the biggest things that we don't even know about ourselves, right? So for me, I'm from Houston, and one thing I'm gonna tell you is that I did operate at a capacity of which I believe myself to be a gangster or whatever the case was, because he was talking about love, and you seen him as he got up here and how he actually showed a different level of emotion. It's because the idea that a lot of us, and we come from dysfunctional families, so we don't even know what love is. And so the importance of understanding how to define what's in front of you makes the biggest understanding of how you set proper boundaries, but at the same time, too, hurt people. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna compare it to another analogy, so it's like this. You don't ever see an individual sit here and say, hey, you know what, I wanna be the brokest person ever. But it's by the direct decisions that they make, small, minute decisions that can lead to that actual outcome. But this is what's so important, is that we had to go through these things, because I had other people that would pour into me, but I wasn't listening. I would tell other individuals, okay, hey man, like, as you can see, there's guns, there's dope, I was incarcerated for money laundering. There's I've been to prison twice. I just got out, like, listen, about like a little bit over a month and a week ago, right? And I'd say I did about a decade. But if you could look at the caliber of some of these things, it can only gauge the type of imagination of what I was actually engaged in, right? But for me, I grew up, I'm Vietnamese, all right? I grew up in a household to where, like, communication was not something that is prevalent. Matter of fact, we were taught, hey, if you have a problem, don't say nothing. Are you Asian?
No.
I can see that because you're nodding your head like, yeah.
You want to keep the picture up, or you want me to shut the projector?
I mean, that's cool. Y'all want? I mean, that's cool. Y'all, it don't matter. I don't really care.
I just don't want the light in your eye. If
I'm
you need
good.
to.
I'm good. It don't matter. It's cool. I'm grateful. Whatever. I'm just glad to be free.
Do you need to explain anything further on the picture other than this? This is what go ahead. You tell him.
Yeah. So like, we grew up in a household to where communication was not our strongest suit. So I was taught to tuck things under. Hey man, you take care of whatever business. And at the same time too, hey, you don't speak to nobody else about it, which in turn creates a different level of dysfunction. So I would sit here and see another man go through another situation, and hey, he disrespected you, or what we deem to be a level of disrespect, and hey, the outcome was a physical altercation. So I would see the end result, not understanding what the process was, and be like, you know what? That's how I also have to respond because of where I grew up. Because I grew up from Southwest, so I'm from A-Leaf. You know what I'm saying? So even in that, she's like, okay. All right, you from A-Leaf or what?
My grandma lives over there.
Oh, that's
So I
crazy.
went to
That's
school-
awesome.
I went to Bonham and then I went to Leaston. But my parents graduated from Hastings and Elsie.
Okay, yeah, I didn't graduate high school. I dropped out. But this is cool though, because I want to explain to you guys, like, and I tell you guys this, and this isn't to sit, because I do not glorify this lifestyle. A lot of decisions, man, I had to go through this pain, man. And the pain was the biggest catalyst for me to actually grow, and it sucked. Prison is not good. So many things that you guys are actually hearing, you guys see from the outward perspective, because when we actually go through it, there are things that we see. Even when he had said something about an officer beating up on an inmate, it stirred an emotion inside of me, because I hated that. Because it wasn't a fair ground. At the same time, too, I would look at an individual and say, hey man, what if that was your brother? You know what I'm saying? Or what if that was your son? Or what if that was your father? What if that was your uncle? And a lot of them, if they're already in their mindset, they'll be like, hey, well, it just is what it is. They shouldn't have been tripping in the first place. But it doesn't matter if you're white, black, Mexican, Asian, whatever. We're all humans. And that's the significance of who we should be and who we project. Whether you have a faith, a religious outlook or what, the importance of understanding, because we have to be the ones to make that positive ripple effect in the community that we have nowadays. So we could say that it's easy to be like, oh, you know what, man, because I see that person tripping. I could sit here and talk, oh, hey, this, and that. But let me explain something to you. If you are not part of the solution, you're part of the what? Problem. So it's important to understand what you can do to try to make some positive changes. Because that little small thing that you do can sit there and change an individual's life. For instance, something as small as this. You could see somebody walking around in these halls, and you could tell by the body language, say if they're slumped down, and maybe going through some situation, but you be like, hey man, what's up, man, how you doing? May not even have to sit there and engage in a full conversation, but to show a different level of sincerity. You heard George get up here and talk to about how that level of compassion, when somebody got up there and prayed for him, how that he actually came to his spiritual understanding. So there was a point in time I did not believe in God. So to me, I'm a Christian, right? And I don't mean to offend anybody in this room, just like he was talking about, but this is what helped me grow as well. So I had to feel the pain, because I had other individuals who would sit there and feed into me. But I would tell them, man, you can miss him with all that. Because of my mindset, because I performed at this capacity, what I believe myself to be a gangster. And in reality, you know what's gangster? Man, taking care of your family. So all these years, I had no communication with my kids. It sucked. Because I would sit here and say, you know what, I live this lifestyle so my kids don't have to, which is so dumb. But in reality, I would tell you, hey man, we did this. And appearances, like check boxes, it looked good. So I would already justify, hey man, well, I'm already doing this, or hey, I got this going on, or I had some money to the side. Everything was fine. But in reality, no, because it was such a short-sighted goal, is that what did I have to show for it at the end?
And didn't
Go ahead.
you have a very young child?
I did.
This second time around when you went in, you had
Yes,
like a
ma'am.
newborn, very young child.
Yes, it was my
6
daughter.
months.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say newborn, yeah.
Yeah, it was my daughter, and by the grace of God, man, I was able to restore that relationship. So yeah, I mean, it's. So one of the biggest things, I'll talk about that a little bit. I had always wanted a little girl. So one of the biggest things that I would see like, you know, my nieces, my whoever else, and that was just something that just like real to my heart. He knows, because I would talk about this, right? Because we've known each other for years, so he also understood some of the pain and the things that we had to endure. And I would vocalize some of this, because I was like, man, I have a daughter. I don't even talk to her. So like at the same time too, I would tell you, hey, you know what? I would consider myself to be a man, but I wasn't even man enough to be out there and take care of my own family. So it's sad, but I had to go through this process to understand at what capacity I need to truly operate at. And it's different, because I could tell you this, man, I could give you compelling speech or motivate you by fear, but the key to change is held within your own heart. That's when it becomes sustainable for you, and you have to find your balance. Because there are 4 pillars that hold me up, and I hope that you guys find yours as well. It's my spirituality, it's my mental, it's my emotional, and it's my physical. That these 4 pillars, that no matter what the case is, that they hold me up during any storm that comes. Because it isn't something that should be outward reliant, that, hey man, you know what, because he's not there for me, that, hey, I'm gonna crumble down. And don't get me wrong, sometimes you might go through some situations where it may not be as easy, but you have to find confidence in yourself. I talked to you guys earlier about the whole idea of conforming, because first coming to the penitentiary, like, he was tripping. My first time down, I was tripping. It's because I did not know myself. I didn't even know my whole identity. So I'm letting what you choose to do dictate the way that I choose to operate at. Which is sad, right?
Somebody else controls you.
Somebody else controls you. This means that in reality is that nobody should sit there and technology, guys.
Well, I didn't want the light in your
Nah,
eye.
you're
They
good,
saw
you're
the
good, you're
picture.
good, you're good. Yeah, but in reality, it's understanding these different things is that it's so easy to conform to the masses. To sit here and be like, you know what, man, yeah, I want to be that tough man in the room. At the same time, too, bro, you can be gangster, but I could be a lot more on top of that. But in reality, if I could sit here and, let me ask y'all this. If I could ask, I'm just going to pick someone random in the room. I'm going to ask you, since you are conversing. What is this something that you say that you value?
I value my faith over everything.
You value your faith over everything? Okay, that's cool. What do you value, bro?
My family.
Your family? Good. What about you, man?
Spirituality.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Sir, what about you? What do you value?
My family as well.
Okay, that's cool. All right, ma'am, what do you value? Your faith? I like that. That's what's up. Ma'am?
Trust.
Trust? Okay, cool.
That's-
So I like that. So all these different things that you guys just said that you guys value, it should be a direct reflection in your action. Although it doesn't matter what you tell me, because what you tell me, talk is cheap, man. So you should choose, the way that you choose to maneuver will show me exactly who you are. Because I would tell you, hey, that I cared about my family, but my actions would not line up. There was a different level of contradiction when it came to that. So I would tell you, hey, I care about my family, I live this type of lifestyle, and I'm doing all these different things. And as you guys had seen, none of this stuff was beneficial when it comes to my action on family. I'll say, hey man, you can't really tell me nothing. At the same time too, I would justify it and I would feel entitled, or hey, because I've been a convicted felon. Nah, man, like at the same time too, it doesn't change the fact that you have to go through these different experiences, what you chose to experience. And all of us, we all have different hands, right? But it's up to you to play your hand to the best of the ability. So you have to find different things, and it may be different because his story may be better than mine, or vice versa. But it doesn't matter, because what happens is you have to find what you can do to stack your debt, because you're gonna be the one that has to live with it. You gotta figure out what makes you tick. You gotta figure out what's gonna get you up out of that bed each and every day. For me, it was my family. For me, I had to sit here and go through this pain, which was sad. Many times where I would sit there and wish I could have a different level of communication, but I couldn't. Didn't matter how much I chose to desire it. And it's different too, right? It's crazy because this is all a surreal moment for me, because 1, 2, 3, we were in a whole different atmosphere about a few months ago, right? So we were talking to tours, and it's different because we can only engage at a certain level when it comes to the tours that come through. And I'm gonna tell you guys something. So even though I taught you guys about my spirituality, like, you know, I was a life coach, although we're a secular program, what comes from it is that we teach a class called Cognitive Life Skills. So are any of y'all familiar with CBT, Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, and how thoughts affect feelings, which then in turn affects your behavior? It's important to understand that, because I would see a lot of individuals who grew up and came from the same environment but would not have the same result or same consequence. And so it would make me think like, hey man, what's the difference? But that mental health is such a big deal. So a lot of people don't realize it because we'll push it off to the side, we'll minimize and be like, oh, you know what, man, nah, it's cool, bro. Hey, suck it up. What, you got feelings? You weak? Exactly. And which is crazy, is like you should, just like I said, what he says should not dictate the way that I move. I define who I am. So if I have that level of confidence and I recognize that, hey, you know what, man, I'm firm in who I am. I know who I can do. I do who I can be, and I know what I can do. I shouldn't let you sit there and sway me in that type of setup. But the reality, go ahead.
Nah, I was just thinking about the emotional stuff, especially like during COVID and all that stuff. Like
Yeah,
we
that's
didn't have
up.
ice. Like, remember we had no water, no ice.
Man, oh wait.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
I jacked the run up on top. When I say jacked the run, it's basically they let us out the shower and we got to go back to our cells because we're on COVID lockdown.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go in. They try to get other officers. I'm like, nah. So I got other people's emotions involved by getting into it with the officer. Like, nah, we need some water. Y'all gonna bring some water bottles?
Yeah.
We're gonna go get some ice. Go get that snow off the ground and bring it to us. They did that. I ain't gonna lie. They went and got the snow off the ground, brought buckets, and then we went back.
Talking
in
about the other
house.
winter freeze.
Yeah, because we were all locked down and stuff. But
Yeah.
it was rough, man, behind that. But the emotions itself, like, it's weird how we may not even be involved in these two people going at it or something, but you hear it and you some stirs up in you and
yeah.
you want to do something. It's like,
Yeah.
man, I don't know. He can explain that part better because of his cognitive teaching and stuff. But it's interesting, man.
So I taught a class called Cognitive Life Skills, right? And it was 5 days a week. It was a 6-week class. One of the biggest things that you can make the biggest impact is that you have to take a level of reflection for yourself. Because I could sit here and tell you about things all day long, and I may see it night and day, but you have to understand what works for you and why. So if you see the way that you tick, that makes the biggest difference. Because I can tell you, I can't tell you from his story, but I tell you from my personal experience and the things that I felt along the way. Because yeah, it sucked to be locked up, but at the same time too, I did what I did. Although I'm gonna tell you this, a lot of these different things, even I used that analogy earlier when it came to, hey, you don't see anybody saying, I'm the brokest, I wanna be the brokest individual. Nah, what happens is just lack of education. And that's the thing, is that we're so misguided because we wanna have this tough man bravado in front of another individual who really at the end of the day don't even matter. So all the people that I sit there and used to hang out with or whatever the case is, man, a lot of people left me high and dry. And so what's crazy about that, but that was good for me though. Because in those moments, it's like whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So I had to utilize that. I had to change that field. So I'm gonna tell you guys this. Your perspective is either your advantage or your disadvantage. Is anybody familiar with Napoleon Hill in this class? No? Yeah, anybody? No? Nobody? No? Okay. He writes a book called Think and Grow Rich. And there's a quote with it that says, with every adversity it brings with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. That whatever you come across, man, you could actually win. It just changes how you look at the situation. So your perspective being your disadvantage or your advantage, it all plays on what you choose. And I hope that you guys choose wisely. But in reality, you guys have a certain hand to play. So we always talk about this too, because even as being a life coach, there were different things that I tell people this was the hardest years of my life. And the reason why I tell you it was the hardest years of my life is because the way that I was used to responding to certain situations, and I'm not going to tell you, hey, I'm going to tell you this, even as a life coach, there are certain things that I promise you that I wanted to do, but because of the fact that it was no longer about us, and hopefully you can find different ways to engage and you open these different levels, because in reality, it's like, I can't sit here and tell you that I care about my family, but next thing you know, you see me over here doing something, hustling, because I was still hustling in the penitentiary too. I was getting in this situation, like all these things contradict, but I'll tell you, hey, yeah, I miss my family, but how does that line up? And so that's why I also ask you guys, what do you value? Hopefully what you're choosing to do and the way that you guys are operating can entail that. Is that you wouldn't even have to talk to me. As a matter of fact, I could sit back and observe and be like, you know what? You are a spiritual individual. Or you know what? I know this man cares about his family. Because all these things are important. Because you have to see, like I said, these definitions are so important, because my definitions of what a man was so messed up that I didn't even know what it was. And then as time progressed, I had to go through this pain. But at the same time too, this was a blessing for me because those experiences helped me grow. And as these experiences helped me grow, this showed me what I needed to be. So I always tell people, I said, everybody has potential, right? Right?
Yes.
Potential means nothing until you tap into it. So you have potential in all these different things that's all around. We have tools that have the potential to do something good. But the question is, what are you going to do with your own hand? So as I was listening to Dr. Green earlier, and she was talking about your projects, and there were the 4 R's that she was mentioning. I hope that you guys choose redemption. And the reason
It's
why,
the hardest one to do.
because of how you choose to view individuals, which is fine, right? But the reason why I say that is view another individual as a person that's made mistakes, because nobody on this earth's surface is perfect. We all make mistakes. The question is, how do you choose to bounce back from it that make the biggest significance? Because in reality, like, man, we all may have done something that could have got us incarcerated or whatever. It doesn't even matter. Whatever ties into your goals, you have to be cognizant of. But for us, like I say, it was we had to navigate through certain lines, man, and it helped me grow, and it was a blessing because I was forced to face situations to where I would respond in a different manner, but I had to respond in a way that actually conveyed, hey, I value my family, or I value my faith, or I value trust, whatever the case may be. And so as we taught these classes, man, it was good because there were different individuals that, like for us as life coaches and stuff like that, man, we help. Like, I don't know if did y'all talk to life coaches and field ministers over there?
It was just 3 field ministers. There weren't any life coaches available in the chapel when we were there on both tours last week.
Okay.
Did they explain what they do?
Yes, we did talk about kind of what each do, and I told the students there would be one from each group here today.
Do they still have this?
Oh, I had mine at the house, so I didn't even bring that.
You know what? I didn't notice if they had. I think they did have it tagged in
They
their
have
uniforms.
they have a
yeah,
different,
they
They
did.
had a different colors. It's like
Oh, they
neon
Yeah,
green.
the badges. But at this point, is it okay if we allow them to ask some questions of what you've shared thus far?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, Marie.
I was really curious about this last week, about COVID and how COVID was for y'all, like day to day, and also how long, because obviously like out here, a lot of businesses closed, a lot of like government things closed, but some didn't. So
Sure.
how long did y'all go into lockdown?
Oh. No, so it's crazy. So you got to think social distance is pretty much non-existent, but you had to have some type of a solution, especially when you deal with so many different lives. Because even at that time, when it was a pandemic, there was so many different things that was a mystery to everybody. But it still didn't mean that they had to find out some type of solution for the problem. Now, the solution that they had definitely was not viable, right? But there would be things, say we lived in a 200-man tank, and you had one person pop hot. And remember, COVID was a virus, right? So the way that it spreads is not, we're in set. Y'all, oh yeah, y'all didn't really see the cells over there. Did y'all see the cells?
Well, we saw in the historical part that shut down.
Okay, got you.
that-
East building?
Yeah,
Right.
so we were in south and we were in east,
Right.
but we couldn't go to west because of the fire. 'Cause
Right.
normally we would go on the third row of the west building, but with the fire, we were unable to go in there.
Okay, so yeah, social distance is pretty much non-existent. Then you live in there with another person. So even he was talking. It's funny because as he was saying something about like Jack and the Run, because what you guys see from the outside is different. Because I'm gonna tell you this, so we won't fluff any feathers. But yes, so there were different things that we had to. Because there was a moment too that they wouldn't even let us make phone calls. So I remember I jacked around one time. And there were so many people that were supposed to sit there and be like, hey man, so everybody's getting wired up. So yeah, I'd let somebody put a chemo bag, right? So let's be real.
Explain what that means.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah, what
say,
does
okay,
that
they
mean?
don't know the criminal justice lingo.
Oh, I apologize. So I let somebody amp me up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Amp you up, is that the phrase you just used?
No, it's
Like, right?
encourage. Yeah, they rattled
Wind
me
you
up.
up, encourage, like get you all
Yeah, all
riled
riled
up.
up.
all riled up, right? And I'm like, hey, this is extreme injustice. So I remember what happens as we talk about Jack and we stole this because we're supposed to get racked back up. So I didn't rack up. Yeah,
Okay,
I
that means go back into your
I'm
cell
so
for
sorry.
count.
Yeah.
Okay.
Apologize. Yeah, so we had to go back inside ourselves, right? And like we were supposed to be like 40 of us, and it only ended up being like 3. But then I was at that point to where like I've already given that permission slip inside my head to just go ahead and engage all the way. You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't easy because even on top of that, there would be different things that we would hear about other people dying on different units. You'd see different individuals getting pulled away and getting sent off or put in respirators, or like they wouldn't come back. So this also plays on the psyche. So you would the imagination starts to run a little bit wild, like man, well, now it's that panic, that anxiety, all this stress starts to set in because you don't know what's going on, that level of unknown, and not even having that level of communication from the administration, because they're telling you they're telling you just to go ahead, hey, you know what, it just is what it is, you guys just deal with it. And that's the reality of it. But as we're talking about the things that would reset, is that when somebody, they would come by and they would do a temperature test. And so there are different ways that individuals would try to beat the temperature test, where they would wash their face or hold cold water or whatever the case may be. Pop, non-aspirins, right? Non-aspirins. And just so they wouldn't pop hot, because if you pop hot, we'd have to reset for a whole nother 2 weeks. And that went for about 6 months, that first run.
Reset.
Yeah, reset. So it would be like, oh, hey, I just stopped counting the days. So I figured out me a routine, and they're like, you know what, this is just, it is what it is. It's already in motion. But we'll get on like day 13, so we're supposed to get off day 14, right? And what happens is, it's just like, hey, well, somebody pop hot on one row. And we're like, dang.
Basically, you gotta stay in your cells again for another 30 days.
Yeah.
Like, when you're talking about get reset, if we clear 30 days or something like that without nobody having tested positive, then they let us have a little day room time. But we never really had it because
Yeah.
there was always somebody having COVID.
Right.
And if you tell them you have COVID, that individual, even though they remove him, everybody else still gonna stay locked down. They would move that individual to another wing, and Yeah, he could tell your body, but that other wing, it was.
Quarantine,
just
yeah.
bad.
It was a quarantine wing, yeah.
They never really went and checked on you. I stayed over there. That's where I wrote my goodbye letter to my family.
Yeah.
I was going through it pretty bad, and I had a officer come by, a sergeant come by one time, and really I called her. I was banging on the doors trying to get some attention. I'm like, man, I can't breathe.
That's
My
when you were
arms
staying
locked-
at Rockwell at the time, too,
Yeah,
yeah.
I said my arms are locking up. I can't move. I don't know what
yeah.
it was. Remember that?
You did. He got affected real bad with that.
And
do
so
remember that.
she basically like, well, what you want me to do? I said, man, can I get some medical attention? She like, they can't do nothing for you. I said, man, that's when I cussed her out. Man, get out of my cell, you know. So I wrote my letter and said, look, man, this is what's going on. Letting y'all know I try to
I
get
do remember
attention.
that. I remember that, yeah.
I love y'all, this and that, but yeah, it was pretty messed up. I had a rough time.
What other questions? Yeah,
Um,
go
yeah.
ahead.
Here in society, to go back to work or to do certain things, you were kind of obligated to get the COVID shot. Were you guys obligated to do that as well? Because I figured like if they're forcing us out here, they might be forcing you guys in there.
So there was a potential, yeah, in the very beginning. So like I was also in the craft shop, right? I don't know if
Yes,
y'all been
they
in the craft
toured
shop?
the craft shop, both tours.
So yeah, I was a metal worker in the craft shop, so that was like a means for finance for me to be self-efficient, right? And so there were different things that I was concerned. I figured, hey, if we didn't vaccinate, that there would be a move. I assumed that. So I went with it the first time. I definitely did not want to go with it anymore. But there were different things, especially when we talk about visitation with your family. So it was like, hey, you can't have visitation with your family. So it was different things that they were pressing, right? And like I said, even for us being incarcerated, we don't have as much liberties, obviously because we're locked up, but the voice also dwindles or gets a little more quiet because if you don't have somebody else to voice it to, they're just gonna go ahead and ride with the wave.
And like he said, for those of you, because we were in the craft shop, he actually worked pretty closely with the one that you all seem to gravitate toward.
Talking
who's
about
the-
Ahmed.
Yes, who's
Yeah.
the captain of the debate team. And so quite a few of them were kind of around his station speaking to him, but that's who he worked with right across from him,
Yeah.
so.
So it was pretty good because like even over the years I was able to like start my own business and have different workers. But like I said, the things that you guys would see is like not everybody's the same. So like I can't sit here and be like, all you college students, there's a stereotype for it. No, there's like everybody has a specific personality and there's different interests and there's different things that cultivate the character that you guys are today. And it's the same concept when you're looking at inmates. But as you're talking about like the whole idea of like I got vaccinated. He did not. He bucked it, which
But he had it,
that sounded like the better idea.
so. Okay, who else? I'm sorry. Yeah, honey, go ahead.
So, thanks for sharing your story. But,
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask, how did you handle like a preconceived mindset of the society? Like, for example, getting a job after coming out of the prison.
Okay.
Also, family reaction. How
Okay.
do you handle that?
So for me, this was already part of the plan. So I had understood there are different things that were a necessary step for me to obviously reintegrate back into society. I knew that when I get out here that I had to have work. I was already like making money in the craft shop. So there were different things that I was already kind of building for. But also like there were different goals that I wanted to have put in place because I would say like, hey, because I didn't have a relationship with my kids. At the same time too, like this was just something that, it just is what it is. But there were different things that I had to change. So like, I told myself is that, hey, I wanted to be the best version of myself so I could be a better father for them so that they could sit there and want to spend time with me at the same time too, that also realigned with my spiritual walk. You know what I'm saying? But now it wasn't too hard because there were different things that it's just reality. But now this is what I'm gonna tell you, for everybody else, it's not the same. And the reason why I say that is because you have different mindsets, you have different situations, and like I told you, even when we were talking about areas of where, because I'm from A-Leaf, right, is that some individuals are just less educated, and it's sad, but it's the truth, right? And so they don't even comprehend it. So like I remember, for us, man, like I've helped people step away from gangs. I've talked dudes down from suicides, all types of stuff like that, right? And so I remember talking to individuals who were going home. Remember somebody who's been incarcerated X amount of years. You would think that, okay, hey man, I'm excited to get out. But how much ever time that they did, they were already working at a capacity that was already capped. Because I'm gonna tell you this, the biggest battlefield is 6 inches between your ears. If you cannot overcome that, you're not gonna be able to overcome anything else in this world. So this individual, I would look into his eyes and he would tell me, he's like, man, I'm about to get out. So for somebody like us, you're like, oh man, that's awesome. Especially after all the time that's transpired, oh man, that's great. But really, like you would see, it's like, man, I don't have nothing to go to. I don't know what I'm gonna do, which hopefully, I hope that you would have sat there and done something with your time, but it's not always the same thing because they don't choose to educate. Because some individuals like this, like there were times like being on lockdown, disciplinary on lockdowns, you don't get to utilize these programs that are placed and set. Because say somebody got stabbed, somebody got killed or whatever, hey, it's already blocked off, so all that stuff gets pushed away. Or whatever the case may be. But individuals will look at people going to school like, man, for real, that's lame. But then you flip that, because I've talked to you guys about perspective being your advantage or your disadvantage. Now you're talking about being uneducated is lame. That doesn't make any sense to me. You know what I'm saying? But we go through different stirs and we go through these different things to actually make a change.
George, I don't think you said lamb pit, but you didn't. How many years you do?
31.
31.
We're actually 1 day shy of 31.
Yeah.
I got out on March 20th, the 21st was the 31.
Who else has a question? Yes, Steph?
I have one, like, I've been thinking about this since we've done the prison tour and stuff and kind of ping-ponging it around, but, you know, they say it takes a village.
Absolutely.
You know, and so, and I know it's up to the individual and their choices and their want to. And so I was just wondering, like, within the system, it seems like there are opportunities or resources that may not have been accessible outside of the system, you know, outside of the prison. And so there's opportunity if somebody wants to change. And so, and it's multifaceted.
Sure.
And so I'm wondering, like, it kind of made me think about, you know, I guess out here in society, there are multiple breaks, it seems like to me, where there's a lot of inequality and resources aren't always accessible to everyone. So I'm wondering, like, you know, what are we doing wrong? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Does
no,
that,
so what can you do to
agree
help
with
to
that?
improve? Correct. I get what you're saying. So like even the same thing is that obviously the desire for change is a necessity for an individual to be like, you know what, I'm gonna choose to excel, or, you know, I'm gonna do something different. It's giving the opportunity to engage in these programs, but in reality, it's treating them like a human. So every time that Dr. Green would come, she would always be the same every time. And that was a blessing because we would get handled by these officers. Even though we would sit here and we do different things in the community, we'd host events or we'd do different stuff, and like, we would get handled. And it's sad, because but it is what it is. That's the world. So, you know, for an individual who may not have the stronger mindset, it may cripple them. But the way that you choose to deal with anybody, and I'm doing comparison to this. It doesn't even have to be directly with an inmate, right? But the person that you deal with in your community today can have the biggest impact. Just the way that you show some type of level of love. And I think that's the biggest thing.
That's what I'm thinking, because it seems like there's so many breaks in the community. Like, what could we do better? You know what I mean? That way, it would almost be preventative, if that makes sense. You know, like
I want to say
education
something
and
too. So,
having more resources.
do they know about Kairos?
James mentioned it briefly when he was speaking to one of the groups. I can't remember if it was morning or afternoon, but when he was talking about how they would come to the unit, and he said they just poured love and Jesus on us, and days. Was it the morning group that he had mentioned it? So it was the morning group. So we talked briefly about it. That was kind of life-changing for these.
Did y'all go to the faith-based storm?
No.
That was the back door. Like a lot of those things were like things that we have been working on for years.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
we
like,
were.
it took years, so a lot of people didn't realize, but it was in the works.
We were allowed in the chapel. This time we got to go to education. I hadn't been up to education since 2016.
Oh, really? Wow.
So, and they were gonna take us to textile, but it was just way too high. And so, did that answer
Yeah,
a little bit
I
of
guess
your
the worst
question?
part of me is like, could we replicate some of that in society?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Can I wanna say something? I shouldn't
I
say
hope that
this,
makes sense.
but I really don't care. Y'all know me
I
well
love
enough
it.
to know.
I love it, Dr. Green.
Okay, but when I set up this semester, and I had been in communication with both of them throughout the tours, and when I wanted to bring them to the classroom, I faced a huge uphill battle with administrators, like, wait, what? Because they already questioned me in a sense, like, okay, you wanna take your students where? Only you would come up with the idea to take them up to a prison. But then when I said, well, two of them, one being a field minister, one being a life coach, I wanna bring them to my class. We've been talking about this for years because I want students to be able to interact and ask questions. And there were a lot of barriers in my way. And I emailed them back and I said, listen, they both done their time. So they're not still like incarcerated in the mind of it. They've done their time. They served the sentence that Texas gave them. And now they're out. And so I don't see what the problem is, because they're not an incarcerated inmate anymore. They're not an inmate. They're out. They've done their time. They've done their sentence. And I kept pushing back. And finally they got sick of me and said, fine, do what you want. And so I was able to bring them to class. But that kind of fits to what you're talking about, because a lot of times, and I've seen it with my own brother, being in and out of prison, you know, where he's done his time, but then tries to assimilate into society. And that first question on every job application after your name and address and phone number is what? Have you ever been convicted of a crime? And depending on how you choose to answer that or what you mark, you already have a strike. And my brother, all of his crimes being financial for the most part and being in federal prison, he's got major strikes against him, because who's gonna hire somebody that has a lot of financial crimes? And so, Anthony, you had a question.
So, do both of you go and talk to your families and like say sorry about everything that happened in the past?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I will tell you, with him, not a day would go by that I wouldn't, when I was up there, he'd always be talking about his family, his kids. You know, every time I would see him in the chapel or outside in the yard, it would be something connected to his family. And I could tell that it was a struggle for him, you know, talking about his kids, you know, not to be there for them. And then George had sent me, when the day he was released, and it said my moment, where the video, where you kind of, you know, he was released and walked immediately into, you know, his family's arms. And I think about him because every time I would see him and we would talk about his story and he would share his story, in a sense I would see that face of a 15-year-old kid. And my son is 15. And there are a couple others in there, 15, 16-year-old, you know, at the time when they committed their crime, and one that they refer to, Ahmed, who got an 85-year sentence at the age of 16. Yeah. And we can maybe show it at the end. He's done his time, and it's time for him to go home. And I say that to a lot of them because some of these sentences are extremely excessive given the circumstances. So what other questions do you have? Anything related to your project, anything you want to know, anything you want to ask related to the tour that I couldn't answer on the tour?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
You guys. I'm just curious. When you guys talk about your testimonies, what was that break point where you're like, there's nothing to go to, so I'm just gonna turn to God?
Okay.
He's got a good one on that one.
Well, a lot of it goes back from when I was, like I said, when I first went to church right prior to getting locked up, I only went to church because my stepdad came home from, 2-3 days of binging on dope. So he comes in, bangs the door open, tells me, we're going to church, this and that. I'm like, you crazy, bro, we don't go to church around here. But eventually my mom and us, we went to church, and it was at that moment where, at that church where, you know, being a kid, I still carried a gun on me, so I heard the gospel, wanted to change my life at that time, because I knew how I was living in the streets. I ended up going up there, getting baptized and all that. It's crazy because I had a gun on me, getting baptized, but everybody around there, and not to this day, I actually went to the church, their new church yesterday, because I was trying to find out the guy who had baptized me way back then, but he passed away and stuff.
Okay.
But anyways, I wanted to change, and I started, you know, I looked for jobs. I lied about my age to get a job, which is on one of the docks. We used to fumigate the ships. The company was IFI. I can't remember what the acronym stood for. But I worked there for a little bit, for about 2-3 weeks. They found out I was actually a kid, and I wasn't 18 years old, like I said, so they fired me. And So I went back to the streets. I went, going to the streets, but the actual relationship with God, I think it ended up when I was in that cell, and that guy prayed for me, and I wanted to change my life. Like, you know what, I'm through, and being there allowed me to understand that I can be alone, because that was my biggest fear out in population, was that I couldn't get away from my homeboys. I couldn't do time by myself, because back then when you did time by yourself, you really did it by yourself. You were shunned by everybody. There was no, you didn't talk to nobody, to them you were considered what they would call a hoe, so you.
A garden tool, guys, a garden tool.
Yeah.
Let's use that word.
So, fast forward on all red unit, I didn't even talk about that.
Yeah, tell this part where,
So-
because they almost had to force him, practically wheel him into the bachelor's
So,
program.
I was on R-rated, I worked my way up from medium custody, I got in population. And my last job I had on R-rated unit, I worked inside yard. Inside yard, we did gardening, cutting the grass, weed eating and all that. My boss man was an alcoholic. He drunk, come to work, all that stuff, whatever. But he was a good, I won't use the word good because the Bible talks about who good God is, but he was a decent guy. He talked about his issues with his wife and stuff. And so me and a couple other guys, we started having Bible studies before we went to work. We'd come to work early, we have Bible studies. Our boss would go to the kitchen and go steal some peanut butter and jelly for us, and we'll eat at the office. And I got the application and I showed him. He's like, "You're going?" I said, "I'm not going." He's like, "Why?" I said, "Man, I love it here. Like, I'm in a good place right now. I enjoyed the job I had, the friends I had. Just the fact that I was working outside was a blessing to me. I enjoyed it. Getting outside, to me, even though it's the same air we breathe, to me it's like it's different air. So being out there running around was fun to me. And he was like, "Man, how are you gonna miss this opportunity?" I was like, "Man, I'm not going, bro." Like, he said, "Yes, you are." He said, "Either you're gonna go or I'm gonna fire you. I'm not gonna let you work for me." I'm like, "Why?" He said, "Because, okay, now at that time I got the application, he had already started going to church. He started getting involved in our Bible studies. He started going to what he called a cowboy church. And, he quit drinking and, getting his life together. So now when I get the application, he wants me to go, I didn't feel it. Like, I didn't want to. Even though I would have been closer to home, because I'm from Houston, Darrington is right here, I was already comfortable in my place where I was at. And he's like, he gonna fire me. I'm like, man, all right, I'm gonna put in for it, you know what I'm saying? But when I put in for it, they, what was it, can't remember who it was. I needed a recommendation. I needed we get 2 recommendations from somebody. And he would have been my second one. The first one was from a volunteer from Kairos. She's talking about Kairos. Well, he tried to give a recommendation. His lieutenant told him no, he couldn't do it for me. So he walked into the chaplain office himself. He said, "Come on." I'm like, "All right." So we went to the chaplain's office. He told the chaplain, he said, "Look, man, this is my best worker right here." And they gave him an application to go to the seminar without Darrington, and I want to get him in there. The lieutenant told me I couldn't do it. Can you help me? So he's like, "Yeah." So I stepped out the office, them 2 talked, and when I went in there, the chaplain said, "Look, he told me everything about you. So I'm gonna kind of be like, somebody else that's speaking on his behalf and let them know why he couldn't say anything." So they put the application in there, and I ended up getting chosen out of so many.
Only 40
Really,
in the
yeah,
entire
it's
state.
40 was I get chosen. And I really, to this day, I'm kind of thankful for him, I heard he died though. I don't know if it's true, I just heard it. I was keep in contact with him. And that man pretty much forced me out of there. So when I went to Darrington, I didn't know nothing about college. I didn't know how to turn a computer on. I was there looking scared in a way. I was like, man, this ain't for me. But other guys stepped up and they're like, man, come on, we got you. So of course, it's the old computers too, taught me how to do all that. I got to typing, and I type fairly well, not where I want to be. I'm sure a lot of y'all are great at it, but it was something that I look back and I see a lot of men and women in my life that has not only prayed for me, but encouraged me and even pushed me towards doing the right thing. And even to this day, I feel there's moments where I'm like, I just give up. We talk about hindrances and stuff like that, getting jobs. She was checking me out earlier, I was messing with him about my monitor on my leg. I'm on a GPS monitor right now, and I gotta get permission from my parole officer to go anywhere as I go. I gotta give them a 30-day schedule of what I'm gonna do for that month. And, you know, some of them, they're so strict that if you don't put it on that schedule, you can't go. And just a few weeks ago, I was leaving work to go to one of my classes that I'm required to go to. I'm like on less than a quarter of a tank. So he's on vacation. So I call the office and they're like, why is it on your schedule? I said, I don't know when I'm gonna need gas all the time. I need to get some gas. If not, I can't go to my class. I'm gonna violate either way. I'm gonna violate by stopping at the gas station. I'm gonna violate going to class and you know, running out of gas on the freeway because I'm not where I'm supposed to be. So those kind of things are frustrating. So I ended up calling somebody else that I knew. They ended up calling the director, which from TDC, and he's like, man, just go, don't worry about it, we got you. I said, I appreciate it. So I went and got gas, but I did text my PO that was on vacation. I said, look, this is what's going on. I'm going to get gas. I said, you can know my location by my GPS. I said, I'm sorry that I'm doing what I'm doing, but I'm in a no choice situation. I gotta get gas.
And
So-
remember last week, we had just finished talking about kind of probation and parole, and I had you write those definitions down and talked about how they can have restrictions placed on them and all that kind of stuff. That's what he's referring to while out on parole. They have to abide by that. If they don't, they could potentially end up going back, which feeds into your question. Is there a breakdown in the community-based correction side, which is my field or my subfield? Because once released, you know, are those restrictions just so above and beyond that it's near impossible for them to meet? And I saw it with my own brother, you know, you're exactly correct, my brother couldn't leave the county or the state without permission, couldn't do anything, had a curfew, all kinds of stuff. And they don't account for like a life circumstance. When my brother was living here in Houston and he was on probation, or I'm sorry, he was on probation. My father had a medical emergency in South Dakota. And so I'm like getting ready to take off. Well, I couldn't go anywhere until my brother got permission to even leave. And then that took several days and, you know, just things like that. Or if you have to take a child to the ER or something.
Can I say something about that?
Yes.
A couple weeks after I was out, you know, for years I used to tell myself I was gonna take a bath when I get out. You know, like fill the tub up, salts, whatever.
We shower y'all, so just y'all just
Yeah.
so understand it. We
Yeah.
shower.
We walk by the, well, cause going to the craft shop, you walk by the laundry and the showers are back
Yes, ma'am.
behind there.
So I did that, Vince, and you know, I had got so relaxed that my monitor went up on like I let my foot in the water, and he told me don't get the monitor wet. So I would put a saran wrap and stuff on it to keep it from getting wet. Well, when it did, I noticed water had got in there. So I was like, man, I had my blade on the counter, the sink. So I got out, I tried to help him cut it off. I slid my foot open about that.
Oh my
God. So when the skin falls back, I hold it right, and I called my mom, and she like, what? I guess she knew about my voice. She comes over, she like, what is it? I said, look, man, get ready because you about to take me to the hospital right now. I'm gonna need some stitches. So she like, what did you do? I said, I'm good. Don't worry about it. I'm alright. Just chill. So
It's cool. I just need some stitches. It's alright.
Yeah, you know, that's not a call any mother wants to get,
Yeah.
and then have her son say, just
Well,
chill.
Well, I couldn't get a hold of my parole officer. And so she tried to call him. No answer. She like, what are we gonna do? I said, we ain't gonna do nothing. We're gonna sit right here. She like, but your foot. I said, don't worry about it. I said, go get me some tape. So I just ended up taping myself up.
Oh my God.
And yeah, because the idea of going back to prison, my mind said, I was like, man, I'm gonna die before I go back. So I just.
Well, there's almost like a state of panic too, because you have so many restrictions that if you step outside of that small little box, if something goes wrong that's out of your control, then this panic takes over like, oh my God, my parole officer, and you're sitting there with, you know, a
That's
foot.
my priority, staying out of prison. So everything else
It's a
is
good
matter.
priority
And
for one, guys.
I was serious.
Yeah.
If I bled out, I bled out. I wasn't tripping, you know. I won't even know about it anyways. So it got infected like 2 days later. But that happened that night. That next morning I went to work. And my coworker like, what's up? I said, man, and I messed my foot up, this and that. I showed him like, man, you ain't supposed to be. I said, look, I just started this job a week ago. I'm working. So I
Yeah.
stayed there
I
working.
can see George doing that.
I
too.
can
I
too.
can see George doing
2
that.
days later, it was you could feel the heat and it was all red and stuff, right? So I was able to get him out parole, get a hold of my parole, and I said, look, Mr. Keebler, man, when I cut my foot, I showed him some pictures and stuff. I said, I need to go to the emergency or go to the after one of them cares they got.
Yeah,
what they
care
call it.
center.
I went there. They looked at it. They gave me some antibiotics. And he asked me, he said, man, you got it closed up pretty good, which really wasn't that bad. He said, I'll give you some antibiotics. You want me to stitch it up for you? I can put about 4 or 5 stitches. Or you want to leave it like it is? I said, man, just give me the antibiotics and let me get out of here. So he sent me to, I guess, I don't remember what store it was, but I'm leaving. They give me the prescription to go get it. And the lady said, yeah, we'll just go right here off this road. And I'm like, ma'am, I don't know where it's at. And she's like, well,
Not for real.
are you?
That's a real thing.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
trying to I mean, just think about trying to navigate coming home and going to a grocery store, or, you know, going to a pharmacy at Walgreens or CVS after 31 years of being inside those walls, and just paying attention to stop signs and stoplights and intersections and all of that. Who else? Yeah.
How old are you both of y'all now?
I'm 47.
How do I look? I just want an honest assessment, and this is just for my own ego. It is how much.
I just said don't
You
boost
honestly
your
look
ego.
like you're in your 30s.
Yeah.
I am in my 30s,
No, when I
so
first
I'm not
met
too happy
him-
about that. No, I'm just kidding.
Wait,
I'm
okay,
37.
wait.
I'm 37.
What year did you get to the Walsh unit? I can't remember.
15.
That's when I first met him. So what was that? Not what, 9 years? About 9 years ago?
Yeah.
And okay, so you would have been about 28.
Yeah.
Okay, because when I first met him, I'm like,
Just
man,
a baby.
I know. I'm
What are
like,
you
look at
doing?
this baby face. I'm like, you look like you're 18,
I'm in
19
the wrong
years
place.
old.
Dr. Green, please let me out.
I'm like, you look like you're, you know, about 18, 19 years old.
Oh, you know.
And he was about 10 years older than
Yeah.
what I had said. And everybody says that about him. Like, he doesn't look or act, you know, the age that he is, just because of his personality much.
I don't know if that's a compliment.
No, it's a
or-
compliment because
All right.
and I can't stress enough from the moment I met you, and again, and you would always talk about your family and things you had done, but I never once saw you with like a frown on your face. And my students on the tours would recognize that, and they're like, that dude is so happy, like what the heck? Given the circumstances, but I saw him change inmates and transform inmates while he was in there. Paul, you good? Oh, he's gotta leave him. Okay. All right, go ahead. Another question? Yeah.
Now that you've served your time in here and you're talking about how it changed you as a person, how fair do you think your trial sentencing was?
How fair? I mean, I think it was fair because I've seen other individuals in similar situations to where they don't get out. So for me, I believe it was fair, but that also plays into my spiritual aspect as well. And so I mean, anything that, whether or not you have a spiritual belief, you know, can make them the best in the situation that you come across. But I felt like it was fair because of, I mean, you look at it, and I mean, like when you look at it, when you look at that layout, what do you think? Like, what do you see? Like, do you, if you weren't even see me as a person, but you would already be like, man, what is this person doing? You know what I'm saying? Your imagination would kind of run, like, I can only imagine the trouble that he was kind of getting into. Me personally, I felt like it was fair on that in certain sense, because I had to make parole twice, right? I had to make parole in my first sentence, and then I had to back door and make parole in the next sentence. But in reality, the reason why I feel like it was fair is because of the transformation and growth that I have now.
What does that mean, making a pro?
I'm sorry, making me.
Yeah, just you trying to make a pro.
So, okay, so in Texas, one of the things too is that, so just because, and a lot of, it's a common misconception is that a lot of individuals will see the term of parole, and that means that you're released to the world or be able to go home. Parole, yeah.
Got it, right.
Yeah.
Very cool, is it?
I heard, yeah. So
Yeah, we
Okay.
just spoke in their last lecture. That was kind of where we were with kind of probation, parole, what's the difference, what does that look like, how do you get, you know,
Okay.
parole, that
Parole is
sort
what
of
you
thing.
got. You went to the penitentiary. Probation is this is a little step before you could possibly go to
But it's
prison.
not even guaranteed though. People look at there and say you come off for parole, you're gonna get released
Right.
on this day based on your good behavior.
Right, and
That's
it's
not always the case. People can never get in trouble and they still deny you parole based
Yeah.
on, I don't even know the factors they use for that.
Well, you know, one thing too, like I used to teach in class is like, you know, when you look at me on paper, like we don't get to actually talk to the parole board members. But this is why it's so important to see the transformation and growth in you. Like, if you know, for instance, that this is a fact that you don't get to talk to them, but what can you do to show, like it's questions that you ask yourself, right? And it's fine honing them, okay, what can I show to be like, you know what, I am choosing to reform myself, or I am rehabilitating, or whatever the case may be, and track it up, like making classes, like, I've created different curriculums in there. It's just all these different things that we just chose to deal with our time, but, yeah.
Wait, we have 5 minutes. Yep, go ahead, Joseph.
George, I have a question, because you said you're wearing an ankle monitor. Do you have to pay for that? Like
Yes,
monthly?
yes.
Because my nephew, he's, he got out and got, locked up. But while he was out for a short period of time, he told me he had to pay about $500 a month for his ankle.
No, I don't pay that much. Everything included with the, I don't know how they do it, but it's only like 5 or 10 a month, plus my parole fees. Yeah, it's real cheap.
Well, it was $1,000.
Yeah, it was not.
Yeah, cause it was not.
But these are some new ones they're testing on us. They just put these out about 2 months ago. And they read your blood level, like your alcohol levels and drugs and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a GPS though. They just came out with them. And, I just paid them ahead of time, cause mine is paid up all the way well, really, I'm paying up for parole and the ankle monitor. But parole, I'm gonna be on for the rest of my life. And it's $18 a month on the parole.
I'm glad you said that, because we were talking about that, how a lot of times they have students get tripped up in the system and then get probation, and then they're like, well, you have to pay for your own probation in Texas, or while you're on parole, and a lot of people don't know that. And I've had some students that, you know, were like, wait, you gave me a year probation and I have to pay you every month for it, and they get kind of tripped up in that, may not have the resources to do it. 3 minutes, what other question? Yep, go ahead.
What help or assistance do they have for people who are released, for the people who are released?
I mean, you got different programs that advocate to help released individuals. It just depends. Like they give you when you get out there, they do a thing called first contact, right? Depending on where you get at, and they give you some information that you can go and get with individuals to be like, hey, well, you know what, I don't have any financial assistance, or hey, I'm looking for something on this type of level. But you have other people who are advocating to help, you know, people who've gotten out. But I mean, there's numerous ones. I can't tell you like right off the top of my head.
The human resources is a good one. I know, like I have a lot of connections with brothers that got out and stuff, but I was hard-headed. I wanted to do my own thing as far as, you know, I guess the pride, you know, let me get out there and do it. I put multiple applications in. Then the only thing that helped me out was a friend of mine actually called somebody that worked in the Texas workforce, something. They called me up and said, hey, look, come in, man, we need to talk to you. I'm like, what's up? So they did a psych test on me. They gave me food stamps and stuff. And then Robert Hodson is a gentleman that works at this company called Spike Electric Controls. And he called me up. He said, hey, why didn't you tell me you got out? Man, they told me you got out. I said, well, I'm just trying to make it, man. I don't want to bother none of y'all, be a burden to y'all. He's like, look, man, I got a job for you. Do you want it? I said, man, I can take it, because I don't put so many applications in right now. I said, I'll take it. He's like, when can you work? I said, man, I'll take it right now. Can I go in today? He said, well, just come in, have a look. And then this was on a Friday, so you can start Monday. So I went in there that day, and that Monday I started working. This was like maybe, 3 weeks after I was out, 2.5, 3 weeks after I was out. I already had a job. 10 days after I was out, I got my driver's license.
It took me a minute, bro. I
Well,
still
I
waiting on my
had-
license, dog.
See, I had someone on the outside start the process for me to get my driver's license while I was inside. They already set up a date and everything. So when I got out, it was only, what, a week later when I had first go to the driver thing and get some information, they sent me back home, and I looked up some stuff online. But I did have a lot of help. If I didn't have my family and stuff, I can't even tell you where I'd be. I'd probably just be back inside.
I mean, think about what he just said though, with the driver's license, and most of you having recently turned 18 or a few years ago, you know, complaining about going to the DMV to get your license. And just think about that, coming back out and having to navigate some of those everyday things that we may take for granted. So, we are out of time. If you have any pressing questions, these two will remain until the next section comes in 10 minutes. But I would like to thank both of them for coming here today and being so open and honest and sharing their stories with you all. Hold on. Do you have one?
No, it's related to this.
Okay, I'll talk to you at the end of class. So, tomorrow when you come to class, we'll regroup related to your project, so don't run wild working on it. You're not gonna be able to do anything until tomorrow anyway, except perhaps think about it or what subgroup you may wanna be in based on the bold or kind of the bullet points on there, okay? All right, I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, thank you guys. I have a real one.
Yes.